So welcome back. So basically, I wanted to go through this article that says three stocks under $5. So the point of this is to actually see, are these stocks, are they ready to actually be owned or to actually be bought? So what we want to have a look at is we want to have a look and see, are these stocks actually a good investment? These three stocks under $5. So my point of this is, and to show you going forward, is a lot of the times by the time the news comes out, it's already too late to get into these stocks. So we're going to have a look at the first one, which is Genworth Financial, GNW, right? So let's just have a look there. GNW, Genworth Financial. So let's have a look. So oftentimes the news is already late, but in this case, if we have a look at this particular chart, what we actually see is actually a pretty good pattern. So in terms of if this is a pretty good stock to own, from the chart perspective, yes it is. But if you see here with the MACD, we really see a downturn. So what usually happens with the news is we have a huge run up here. So if you have a look here, this stock has already moved in the last 29 days 42%, and has now only come onto the radar of the news. So in this case, what's actually going to happen here, and what you're actually seeing, is that your smart investors have already got into the stock when it's moved down, and at this point in time, the stock has already gapped up. Now, for this particular stock, we see that this stock originally, at this point over here, was about at $3. The stock has gone up to, if we have a look at where it is now, from that before that gap up, has moved up 70%. Now, you don't need to be a genius to know that when a stock moves up that much and it gets into the news, the smart money, the investors, these guys are selling already. So what happens is we can see that it's slowly been moving up, but the stock hasn't taken out this new high over here. So in this case, is this stock a good stock? If we go back to the article, it says here, three top stocks under $5. Well, it was a top stock when it was over here, but at the moment it's not a top stock. And we'll have to wait and see exactly what happens here. But in all likelihood, what you'll probably find is that when a stock is coming to the news, it's already made its move. It's too late. Your retail investors are always late to the market, and the news is always late. It's your technical investors that get into the stock. So let's go have a look at the other stock here that they mention. Yamana Gold, AUY. Let's have a look at that. As we can see, the stock was moving up. It's now moving back to the moving average. We see there is some positive upside with the MACD here. But what we have is we have the stock that's actually broken down below the 10-20-day moving average, as well as the 50-day moving average. We're now approaching the 200-day moving average. And if the stock actually fails to make this, to break out of this previous high position here, or fails to break out of this 50, if it bounces off this 50 and goes back to the 200, once it hits the 200 and bounces back through the 200, in all likelihood, this stock will go down. So the question is, why wasn't this stock mentioned, in February? Because since February, if we take one across the moving averages, the stock has already moved 211%. So the smart money has been catching and riding this wave the entire time. When it comes out in the news, it's too late already. So what you need to do is you need to actually look at the news and think opposite. So this stock is too late to get into, in my opinion, because it's already made its huge move. So let's have a look at the other one. So this is what I'm trying to point out, is that you get a lot of people that follow penny stock newsletters, they follow the news, and in the meantime the news is wrong. The news is always late. It's for retail investors that don't know anything about technical analysis and are getting too late. So let's have a look at AK Steel. Let's just have a look at that ticker again. So AK Steel. Steel. We see what we're seeing here is, yes, we do have a bounce back off the 50-day moving, off the 200-day moving average. But if you look, the actual stock is in a downtrend. It's in an uptrend up until this period here. If we drew a if we actually came into our chart and we drew a trend line, we'd see that the stock was in an uptrend, but at the moment it's actually broken that uptrend. What we have and what we see, which is typical of most stocks that hit their 200-day moving average, they rise up in value. Now, if it breaks the 50-day moving average and continues to move up, sure. But in terms of this stock being in an uptrend, no. If we take from when the stock first broke out of or started moving up from this position in mid-February. Now it's important to note the previous chart that we looked at was also the stock had been up and moving in an uptrend since February. So already this stock has moved 167%. You can call it almost 168% in a very short period of time. So we can see that yes, the stock is moving up, but it's moving off the 200-day moving average, and it's in an actual downtrend. If you look here, if we drew a trend line across here, we'd see that the stock actually broke through that trend line. Up until that point of time, your big money, your smart money, your investors that were buying the stock above the 50-day moving average or pushing it above the 50-day moving average, they've made their money. So the news comes out, the retail investors rush in, and I wouldn't be surprised if you actually see that this move here is nothing more than retail investors getting involved in the stock. And we're going to see in all likelihood that when it hits the 50, the chances of that, I think, breaking out are slim to none indeed, but we never know, you know, because here we already see we're already in a downtrend, and yes, we are above the 20-day and the 10-day over here, but we're at quite a strong resistance level, which is a 50-day moving average. I think in terms of this stock, it's a little bit too late to get in the game. I mean, if somebody wanted to get in or you wanted to trade the stock, you could always put your stop loss slightly below that stock, and that could give you then obviously a bit of protection in case the stock did move up. But if we have a look here, I mean, we have resistance over here as well in terms of the stock going up. We have resistance there. Okay, so we have a bit of a move, but if we have resistance here at 548, and then we also have the 50-day moving average. So let's just have a look. So you see, the thing is, they're talking about a lot of the time, if you read these articles, that you know, the stock has been producing a net gain of over 30% this year. But in terms of GNW, if we go back to that particular stock, it's already made its move. Now, if we have a look here, we've got resistance over here, so there is resistance, and then we have a further resistance further up. Now, this stock, I mean, from a chart perspective, it actually doesn't look too bad, because if we look and we drew, you know, we've actually got almost like a triangle pattern forming here. But what's concerning is that we have a histogram turning down. So those are three stocks, you know, that you can look at, which the media says, you know, what's the title? 3 top stocks under $5. Are they top stocks? According to our indicators, the price pattern here is showing that yes, it's looking good, but MACD is already showing us that it's a downtrend. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see that the stock breaks down. And that's just that for this particular series of videos on you know, 3 top stocks under $5.